Hello and welcome to the Art of Pointy Things, a channel where I discuss my adventures in knitting, sewing, embroidery and other similar crafts. I'm Dusty and today I'm doing the 4th episode of my monthly knitting and creating podcast detailing what I've been making in the last month since I saw you. If you're new here, thank you for joining me, and if you're a returning viewer then welcome back. This podcast is sort of going up a week late. I normally try to upload in the first week of the month, but Halloween messed up when I needed to record, so I'm sorry that it's a bit late. And I'm also sorry I've not made any content in the last month at all. I was hoping to make more videos, but it didn't really happen. But anyway, so first things first, what am I wearing? I am actually wearing a cardigan I made this week. This is the first cardigan I ever made when I was 17. So this is I think it's the Sophia cardigan from the Debbie Briss Rialto book, which came out yonks ago and probably ages me massively. So it has some beautiful patterns in it, and I made Sophia, which is that one. So that's what it looks like. Unfortunately that doesn't give you the back picture. Give me a moment to try and find the... Yeah, I'm going to try and not show you the pattern. It's actually a pattern for a different one, but you can see the back has these little cables and then it flares out at the bottom, and it's really quite nice. Might have to blur out that other side when I post. We'll see how that goes. Might not be able to read it all. Anyway, it's a nice book, and they're actually, like this one on the front, I do want to try and make, as well as some of the others. There's some really pretty ones in here. That's what's right. So it's just like, there's so many good looking things in here that I would wear, even though they definitely, to me, look a bit aged. Like, they're definitely not modern fashion, but hey, oh well. I do not necessarily care about what is currently fashionable. I never have. I just like what I like. So, the yarn. I probably should mention the yarn. It was meant to be, it's called Debbie Bliss Rialto. That is a merino yarn that Debbie Bliss does. But I could not afford that when I was 17, so I used some just 100% merino. Genuinely no idea. I have looked for the label. I don't know. Didn't keep the label. It wasn't something I was worried about. So, it's purple. I like purple and I like blue, so it's very nice. I like the sort of varied effect. It's very pretty. Right, on to the main content of recent knits, not knits from God knows how long ago. Oh, so finished object, first finished object. It's my shawl, I finished it, and I'm so happy with it. I cannot tell you how much I absolutely love this. And like, for a pattern that just sort of was like, I wonder if I could do this, and I did it, and I'm now like, oh my god, it's beautiful. So if you've seen, you've seen this as I made it. It took a couple months to make, so I've seen it in the last few episodes. It's a triangular shawl, very simple triangular shawl, and then using a undyed 85% superwash merino, 50% multicoloured net from Chester Wool. And then along the edge I got one of my hand-dyed skeins of yarn that I think I got for Christmas last year, which is from my yarn place. It's in the Spots and Speckles mini colourway. And I think it's spotted on undyed, which means it's got those bits of sort of colour that match this, and I think that ties it together really well. And originally I was kind of concerned because it's quite a busy yarn, because it's a very heavily speckled yarn. You can actually see it skeined up in potentially caked up as well in one of the previous episodes. I'll see if I can link it in the iCard, wherever the iCard is. Maybe that corner, maybe that corner. One or two. And I was wondering with the lace if it would work. It's a very simple lace pattern that I found online somewhere. And no mistakes. Cover the mistakes. I'm not 100% great at lace. But to be honest, the busyness does help cover up some of the mistakes, but also I think it does add to it. I absolutely love this. I have been wearing it. I blocked it, and yeah, I met in the middle and then just did a garter stitch sort of mited squarey thing that could have possibly been wider, but basically to do this I just went along, started at one corner, started at one edge, picked up a stitch, did there and back again, and then picked up a stitch and knitted 2 together at the beginning of every row to join the lace work to the edge. I did decide to do every stitch. Within reason, I did try to end at the same point on the pattern on each side, but what it does mean is that there's almost more lace work than there is border of the stockinette, which means it's sort of, it's almost gathered, it's almost like a gathered thing, so it's, you know, when I was blocking it, it was painful because, yeah, I keep picking it up and looking at it and then realising that the camera is above me, which is one of those things, as well, yeah. But it's absolutely gorgeous. You can sort of, if I lay it out, you can see, pretty. It's so pretty, and it's just everything I wanted. It's everything that I wanted it to be, and it's great. One thing I did want to mention, so this is actually the first big full-size sort of knit flat pattern, and I don't know if you can see in the camera, there's a point when the fabric changes, and that is because when I started this, I swapped, this is the first thing I've knit flat since switching to continental style knitting. So with the yarn over my left hand. And I didn't realise when I started that I was purling wrong. I was wrapping the yarn the wrong way round the needle, which resulted in twisted stitches. So I have no idea if you can see, but I'm just going to keep pulling it up and hoping that you can. So the stitches are twisted, which isn't ideal and great. And basically there's a point when down here you can sort of almost see the change, twisted stitches and then not, where I swapped. And in all honesty, I was like, oh, I was going to have to relearn continental, it's going to take me ages. And when I tried to figure out, I was like, I was going so slow. But then once I got it, it was so much faster because it meant that on the knit row, I wasn't having to knit into twisted purl stitches, which was taking me longer because it was a bit more difficult. It wasn't as easy as knitting into normal purl stitches. So that was an adventure for me. But even with the fact that, the thing is, I can see it. I have no idea if anybody else can. I have no idea if anybody else cares. But it's one of those things that you know all the problems with your own work. It's like you can point out all of the issues and then everybody else is like, but it's so pretty. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty. I'm a bit weird sometimes when it comes to this stuff. Yep, next. So the next item you lot haven't seen before, and it's just going to look really weird. I'm going to have to spend like half an hour on this pod item itself just to explain it. It's a pair of mittens for my other half, but you will notice that this one's a bit weird. So they're for archery, specifically archery, and the whole idea is it's getting cold, it's getting into winter, and specifically we've got somewhere to shoot. It's not indoors, but it's covered and floodlit, so you can shoot after the sun sets. But the problem is after the sun sets, it's kind of cold, so I sort of made a pair of mittens. So this one is for your right hand, and it's just a pair of convertible mittens. I should probably also mention, for anybody who is vaguely interested, this is for a right-handed archer. And the whole concept is that you've got basically a convertible mitten, and when you're shooting you just pull that back and that's where the string is held, and therefore there's a button on the back so you can loop it. And it doesn't get in the way. And the thumb, because I use my thumb as a reference and so does my boyfriend, so the thumb is clear. But then when you're not shooting you can have toasty warm fingers. That's the point of that hand. And that's relatively easy because you just take a mitten pattern. In my case I think I use the Tin Can Knits World's Simplest Mitts. And you just, at one point you just bind off and then like the next row you just cast it on again. And you get a gap. Which normally you don't want, but for convertible mittens it's fine. And then this one is weird because on your left hand, and the reason why you can't normally wear gloves on your left hand is because the bow presses into the palm of your hand and you're holding it. You don't want fabric in the way. You want it just to be skin on skin because that's how you normally train, and when you get to competitions that's how it'll go, because either you'll be competing indoors and they'll have like heating and so you won't need mittens, or you'll be competing in the summer where again it's normally warm enough that you don't, it might be wet but it's normally warm enough you don't need mittens. So using the numbers from the same pattern, the Simplest Mitts from Tin Can Knits, I knit the ribbing and then I sort of only did half of it up until the point where I needed to put the top in. And I sort of did a part of the thumb gusset so you could sort of keep your thumb warm, but in all honesty, it's not really worked great. And so this bit of ribbing I added on afterwards. I picked up stitches along there and then I knit a bit of ribbing casting off as I went up. So it's left the palm clear. I would like to point out these probably look absolutely massive on me. This is because my boyfriend's hands are bigger than mine. So they actually fit him a lot better. But it provides sort of the warmth for the areas and then this bit's uncovered and it's warm. I don't know how many people care about that. If you didn't care about that, that's fine. But it's just something that entertained me for the past month. I spent a lot of time trying to fix it and trying to get it to work. You can probably see there's some weird stuff happening down there. I try to figure out what's up. I would definitely knit it differently again if I did it. I think, you know, the thumb came out again a bit weird. It's just all a bit weird. But it was a fun adventure. And this one's fine. Let's throw it off the table. This one's fine. He likes this one. So the yarn is just stash yarn that I've had again for years. It's the stuff I've been making all my other mittens out of. It's a Sleder Country style DK. I just did the top in red because I thought it would look cute. I think my boyfriend doesn't care. I think he's just like warmth, which is fine. It's fine. But yeah, I'm happy with them. I'm kind of tempted to make myself a pair, but I had to make them smaller. And B, there's a few things I would change, especially on the left-handed one, to make it fit better. So that's all my knitting finished objects. I am actually going to go into sewing finished objects. If you do not care about sewing, I'll check the thing below, because I do intend, I normally put the timestamps in, so you can go back to the sewing. No, go back to the knitting and avoid the sewing. I won't hate you for it. I don't think I can really unfold this, so we're going to see how well this works. It's probably just going to end up crumpled on the floor again. I'm going to have to iron it again. So Halloween, I mentioned, passed by recently. And my boyfriend we had an archery shoot, costumed archery shoot. My boyfriend wanted to go as the vampire and he decided he needed a cloak. And so he asked me if I would make him a cloak, cape thing. So I made him the simplest cape that you possibly can, which is where you get a nice giant rectangle of fabric, selvage to selvage, so that you don't have to hem the edge. And then the top edge, which I think is this one, you fold over twice, and it's going to not show up on the camera because it's black on black on black. That. The top edge, you fold over twice, leaving a hole so that you can thread a cord through. I used this bit of cord. I was going to swap it for something nicer, and then my boyfriend just didn't care, so yeah, he just got a random piece of ribbon that I think was used to tie together some fat quarters I bought a few years back that I just keep because I am a hoarder. And then you put it on him, put it around his neck, and then you cut the bottom and you hem the bottom. So I don't know if you can tell because again it's black on black, but I didn't just fold over hem the bottom. I ended up getting some cotton twill tape I have and sort of trying to bind the hem in that. A, because I'd heard it probably makes it a bit stronger, which I don't know why I care for a Halloween costume, but and B, I was hoping it would add a bit of weight. I don't think it really did, because I didn't want to catch too much in the wind. I wanted to have a bit of weight so it actually hung rather than like became a sail. I don't think it really worked. I don't know. Originally I was kind of hoping that I could then just unpick the two of them and I would have a large piece of black fabric with which to make stuff. Alas, my boyfriend has declared that he absolutely loves the cape and he plans to make more Halloween costumes with it in the next few years. And in my sustainable heart, I'm sort of am one of those people who are like, oh, you shouldn't buy a Halloween costume for one day. It's not really environmentally friendly. But if he does want to reuse it, like, I'm not going to fault him for that. Like, if he wants to reuse it, he can reuse it. I'm not really going to mow. So I had to find someone at home for it. I just used some black cotton fabric that I got in my local fabric store. I got it from Fabricland in the centre of Bristol, which is always an adventure to go to the centre of Bristol. It's got some, it actually might be cotton polyester mix thinking about it. I think I couldn't find 100% cotton, which is fine, especially if we reuse it. But it wrinkles like nobody's business. And I put it in the washing machine and then forgot to take it out of the washing machine and put it in and hang it up. I put it in the tumble dryer instead. And it's not shrunk or anything. It was just the most creased and matted thing I had ever seen. And it took me about 45 minutes to iron flat. And the camera is probably making it look nice and flat. And you can't see all the other wrinkles that I haven't quite gotten out. So that was not fun. It was an adventure. But to be honest, he liked it as a cape. So, and then there's my Halloween costume, which I watched Rachel Maxey's video of making like a Victorian, was it Victorian or Edwardian? It was Victorian bat costume. And I was like, that's so cool. But I can't be bothered to do sort of proper Victorian. So I got a hoodie. This is again black on black. So good luck actually seeing any of the details. So hood, you can probably tell this is a hood. I put ears on the top. In all honesty, the ears are nowhere big enough. Bats have massive ears because of the echolocation thing. So yeah. And then just a hoodie, and then the back is a set of bat wings. Sort of made in a very similar style to Rachel's ones. You can tell that I really can't fold them because it's got boning in it to try and keep the points out. I like this costume, it's not bad. You really can't see that, can you? So it was basically like, if you just watch Rachel Maxey's video, I'll try and link it in the description if I remember, but it sort of comes out and then it's just points and then there's boning, black boning, I actually managed to find some black boning, that just goes towards the centre to hold the points out when you're wearing it. And then bottom is pointy as well. And you'll probably see it's a bunch of non-clipped threads because apparently I am trash when it comes to actually clipping my own threads, especially on a Halloween costume I wore for like, I mean I wore it the whole day technically. But yeah, I'm not a massive person for dress up and Halloween in general, but I was like, I don't know why her video just called to me and I was like, I want to make that as well. I'm gonna make the really cheap version, really easy version that just takes like 30 minutes. Well, I mean, it took longer than that because I had to hem everything, and hemming curves is just, iron is your best friend when hemming curves. Just re-steam the fabric into a new shape. Great. Works wonders. This one I am debating whether to take apart and use the fabric for something else. Like, the hoodie is just a hoodie, so I can always reuse that. It's like, will I actually wear the Halloween costume again? I don't know. And the boning is always useful. Like, there's a part of me that's like, I want to keep the boning to make other things. I have plans in my future for corsets and stuff, so boning is always useful. And like structured dresses and stuff. This is just going to have to go on the floor because I unfolded it and I can't be bothered to try and refold. And all of the random black threads are now on my table. Oh well. Yes, I might take that one apart because I don't think I'm as attached to it as my boyfriend is his cape, so I have actually finished things. I feel vaguely sort of happy because I've actually like finished a few things this month. I mean, the Halloween costumes were not exactly different. Probably took me a few evenings between the two of them. So on to, I suppose, works in progress, of which I only have knitting works in progresses. So hello again, the people who will skip the sewing content. Don't blame you, it's a bit weird. I can't remember where I was with these last month, but these are the Owlie socks. These are the sort of cabled, hello, cabled owls socks, Owlie socks. Which is, Owlie socks is a pattern by, I'm going to butcher her name, Julie Elswick Schumann? You can look, owls. So, I'm probably not going to spend much time on these. I haven't spent a lot of time on these because these are sort of the ones I put to the side to knit the mittens. So I should be getting back onto these this month. But it's this cabled owl motif that you see around sometimes. And it's absolutely gorgeous and I love owls. I feel that you definitely, I'm going to have to, I think I might duplicate stitch on some eyes. Because the pattern does call for beaded eyes. But I don't really want beads on my socks. So I think I have to go through and duplicate stitch them. And so it's sort of like a horned owl. I've realised that if you don't know what you're looking at, it can be a bit weird. So these cables up here are sort of the horned ears. And then that's the bottom of the face. And then these ones are the bottom of the body. And then it's sort of sat on a branch. I hope that clears things up. Because I did show it to somebody and I was like, well, how does that owls? And I'm like, but it's definitely owls. but they're absolutely gorgeous and cute and adorable. I do like them. So it's a free pattern, so feel free to go and check it out. And the yarn is my hand-dyed with rhubarb leaves yarn. Rhubarb leaves and nettles even. And it's 80% superwash, BFL and 20% bamboo. And there is a video of me dyeing the yarn, which I'll try and link if I can. But yeah, they can be a bit tricky to knit, and sometimes I get a bit sort of because it's all cabling, and there's literally cables like every other row for these little the little detail in here is cabling every row. So it can be a bit difficult sometimes. When I sit down and do it, it's fine, but it can be a bit difficult to sort of incentivize myself to do so. But yeah. They were my entry to the strawberry pickle. It was strawberry pickle knits along. But I honestly haven't finished them. I don't think it matters if you finish them, but knitting. My other work in progress was the cast on. I let myself cast on. Come on, no. How have I got everything tangled up? I laid it out so nicely. Of course I had to show the mistake first. Let's go around to a bit that doesn't have a mistake. Let's go around to a bit now because I realise that there's no bit of this that isn't wrong. Great. Wonderful. This is what I cast on after I finished the shawl. This is, you might notice, is brioche. So a few months ago, I did mention that I'd never done brioche before and that I had a brioche project in mind, and this is that. It's the Thistle Cowl by Suzanne Strachan. I probably should figure out how to pronounce names before I start recording. Hey, I'll just wing it on the go. So, I finished basically the first bit, which is basically just straight. Ooh. I must admit, I'm loving brioche. It's relatively simple, and you get this squishy, soft fabric, and I'm really liking it. So the fabric, the yarn even, not fabric, the yarn I'm using for this is the Simply Soft, Karen Simply Soft? Yeah, Karen Simply Soft. So the brown, which is the one I've got, is Bone, I think is the colour name. Oh yeah. It's 100% acrylic, which I don't normally like using because it never feels great to me. I mean, it's really soft, don't get me wrong. Like, calling it Simply Soft is a very apt name because it definitely is soft. But I don't really like it. And so I'm probably going to give this away as a Christmas gift or something. And then I might make myself another one in wool or something that I like the feel of. Wool cotton blend maybe, I don't know. For warmth, I probably actually want to go for wool. But I'm absolutely loving like how the brioche is looking. But yeah, I'm really enjoying brioche. As I said, I thought it'd be really complicated. It's actually surprisingly simple. Like once you get into the flow of it, and especially just sort of if I call it 1x1 rib, it's not 1x1 rib. I think I had somebody else refer to it. It's 1x1 brioche. I don't know what it's called. But yeah, I think these colours work really well together. So yes, what projects I'm excited about. I feel I should have more to say, but I don't really. As I said, a new brioche. I've never done brioche before. You can, find the mistakes. I mean, there's like 20 million mistakes in here already. There's a part of me that doesn't want to give it away because of all the mistakes, but I also feel that the person I kind of want to give it to, like, she does knitting herself, and she'll be like, yeah, it adds quirkiness. Quirkiness. That's what it is. Anyway. That, I think, is all my work in progress. It is. Okay. One moment. And we're back. Okay, so the next thing is sort of future projects. And the next item, I know as I said earlier there'd be no more sewing content, but there is. I'll try and keep it short, but again, you know, I'll try to put a time card so that you don't have to. I went to a wedding this month in Lincoln, near Lincoln Cathedral, and whilst we were, you know, waiting around, because it's quite far, I don't know if you know, I mentioned I live in South Gloucestershire, it's kind of far to get to Lincoln. I went to a fabric shop called the Fabric Quarter, which is right near the cathedral and the castle, up on sort of the top of the hill. There's this sort of cobblestone street that is just like a lot of really nice shops, like a lot of small locally things. There's a farm shop, which was really cool. Some zero waste shops, which I always like going into. I am trying to become more eco-friendly, but slow going. And a fabric shop, and it had this Lima print sort of material, and I loved it. And they had it in sort of half-metre sections, so I bought a half-metre of it. And my hope is to make a knitting project bag out of it. It's quite thickish with a bit of structure, but I still have some more of that black fabric, which I think will go with the black. And some of the detailing. Why are you upside down? And I was just going to use the black as a sort of lining, and I've also got some interfacing which I can use to give it more structure. Never forget to interface your bags or to line them with something sturdy, because it gives them a lot more structure and it's really good. Learned that one the hard way. There's some free patterns online, but to be honest, I've made bags before, as I've implied with the whole interfacing comment. So I like to think I know what I'm doing, so it shouldn't be difficult. I mean, to be honest, I did all supplies at the beginning of the month and I still not done it. So I've only been concentrating on knitting too much. But that's a future project, some knitting bags, and maybe a needle roll if I have enough left over. I should do. But I think a needle roll would be nice, because I bought a lot of interchangeables recently and I've not used interchangeables before. So I don't actually have anywhere to put all of the needles, because I've just sort of been buying them as I need them, rather than like buying a set. Which everyone always says buy a set, but I don't have a lot of money at the moment, and I can put like a couple of quid aside for like, needles. I can't like put like the 100 quid it required to get a whole set. So my next project, I forgot to get the yarn out for this. There's a faff to get out, and the camera's in the way. Damn it. So if you've been watching for a while, you'll know that I knitted a tank top without a pattern, basically to try and make a fitted garment that was basically using my body measurements and the gauge to knit a fitted garment. That went really well, and I want to do it again, but for sort of a knitted sweater vest style thing. Almost like the one on the front of here. That sort of style of vest with either very short sleeves or no sleeves. And I want to make it fitted to me, maybe with some clothes on. As in, like, not like skin to skin, but like over the top of stuff, so I'm going to have to take measurements properly. But I also want it to be textured rather than just plain stockinette. So I have to figure out how I'm going to work that into the decreases and increases for it. There is part of me that I have said before, I want to make a video more on how I did the tank top. I'm not an expert, definitely not an expert, but I'd like to show you at least my process so that you can give people ideas. Because some of the comments I have received are that they're interested in that sort of stuff. So I'm thinking of doing that. If you are interested, then please say in the comments below, because I hope people are interested. It's something I'm quite interested in, so I thought I'd show you my process and how I did that. But the thing is, the next comment I'm going to make is that you probably noticed that I didn't show the socks that I've been showing every episode. Not because I've finished them, or because I've made no progress. I've made plenty of progress. It's just the fact that I've shown them a lot. I didn't want to repeat myself, which I feel I've done a bit already, but c'est la vie. But also, because they're coming into November, those socks were a Christmas gift, and I now need to finish them, as well as a couple other pairs of socks, and maybe that cowl as Christmas presents. So hopefully, if I actually do this, the next time I talk to you guys, I should have all of those finished, or at least really close to finished, because they're Christmas gifts, and I'll need to mail them out in December. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. It might be quite a boring episode, because it will just be like, socks! Socks! More socks! Very plain socks as well, not even interesting socks. So, I will try to do something interesting, so I have something interesting to show you. It's not just socks and more socks. But in all honesty, I think that's all the content I have for you this month. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed yourself, then please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. And you can maybe check out one of my other videos, one of my previous episodes, if you've been piqued interest in any of the things I've been talking about. You can also check the description below for my Ravelry and Instagram. And if you have any questions or comments or suggestions or anything really, please leave them in the comments down below. Be very appreciated. And have a lovely day.